Hello everyone and welcome to episode 83, Unveiling Duskmourne
Say its
name of
In Response.
A legacy podcast.
I'm Philipp Klein
I am Daniel.
And I'm Peter Plank.
and we're talking about legacy.
Most of the time.
You are listening to In Response, a legacy podcast. A show where three handsome guys talk about their favorite Magic the Gathering format, Legacy.
I'm Peter Plank, the artificer. I've got everything at hand in my Goblin Welders toolbox.
I am Daniel, the scientist. I ponder precisely about the next move that decides the fate of my opponents.
I'm Philipp Klein, the rogue. I use the graveyard to fuel opponents with agony.
And now, lean back and enjoy.
This time we talk about a world that could happen in the near future. Maybe it will, but maybe not. We will see. We picked some cards out of the new Duskmourne set that we had the pre-release last weekend, I think.
Yep.
When this episode airs, something like that. And overall, the set looks not so promising from a legacy standpoint. But in my opinion, I think that's a good thing, that we don't have such a high influx of cards all the time. But nevertheless, it's great to just have some kind of brewing going on and just throw some ideas into the void. And that's what we want to do with this episode. We picked one card especially to just brew around, and we'll talk about a brews in this episode. But first, some kind of spoiler season. We picked, I think, 2 cards here for this episode where we want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Peter, what is the first card that we want to have a brief talk in this episode?
Yeah, it's a miracle. It's Metamorphosis Fanatic. It's a 6-drop. It's the one card that perfectly can slot into the best deck of the format. It's a 6 mana. It's a 4/4 with lifelink, with an ETB. When it enters the battlefield, you can return target creature from the graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it, and it can miracle for 1 and a black. So, yeah, it's a really, really strong card. With miracle, it can be cast like an animate dead, gives additionally a second body onto the board. But yeah, what do you guys think about it?
Do you know what this card reminds me of? A card that we actually have talked sometimes already on the podcast.
No.
It's Triumph of St. Catherine. It's basically almost the same. It's also a miracle for 2. It has a little bit of a smaller body. It has also lifelink, but it doesn't have the recurring action with getting shuffled into your library, but it brings a second body with it. So the thing is this card good enough for Legacy? Will it maybe be played as another, like you said, as another animate dead in Risk Emanator?
I think I will definitely say it will be played, just for the reason because people will try this card out in the shell, because it is such, on paper, a very nice fit into the existing archetype without any big deck building implications. Most likely, the first version that comes to mind is, of course, for example, a deck where we have the standard blue-black Reanimator shell, and you just replace Animate Dead by this card. This enables you, with some setup options, sometimes through natural draws, of course, also, that you can set up this turn, you miracle the Fanatic, you recur either, for example, the Achon or the Atraxa, and then suddenly you have an almost unbeatable board state with this 4/4 lifelinker plus the Achon and or Atraxa and their ETBs. So usually this, people refer this to like a very high ceiling that is the potential that automatically wins the game. It's like an I win button kind of thing if you get to cast this card. But here's my take on this. Well, if you reanimate Archon or Atraxa already with an animate dead, is already kind of an I win button in the first place, because usually from an Atraxa that draws you, let's say on average, how much is it, 4 cards or something, is something that usually wins the game and is already considered an I win button.
Yeah, as Daniel said, it's like a pretty high ceiling on the card. It has the ETB, but also the downside is like sometimes it's just a 6-drop that you have in hand that you can't cast. It has no discard outlet in itself, but I think for this we have the small little frog in the format. One thing that kind of struck out to me is like it can be a really good tool for additional entombs, because like any reanimation spell makes it basically to double reanimate. Because if you reanimate the Fanatic, it gets the ETB again to reanimate a Troll of Khazad-dûm or any frog or even an Atraxa or an Archon of Cruelty. But yeah, the numbers definitely have to be tweaked. I think it can be something like a 1 or a 2 of in the deck, but I don't think that we will see 4 of it. Maybe it is so good that we can see 3, but I think it can be a 1 or 2 of definitely in the shell of Blue-Black Froginator.
I would say it's I will, I think 3 copies of Animate that are currently the norm for the deck. I would say that people swap it out 1-to-1 for the beginning, that we have like 3 copies, for example, of Fanatic. But in the end, ultimately, I tend to believe that Animate Dead in the end will still be the better card, just because I think this card needs more setup. And one problem of the Fanatic card is that it only works on your graveyard and not on the opposing graveyard, which is not irrelevant. And depending on the matchup, even if the mirror, for example, or basically in any matchup, you always have sometimes reanimation targets that you want to hit. And with this Fanatic, you kind of have to set it up with Brainstorm, right? Or Ponder, let's say. Otherwise, through natural draws, if you are in, let's say, a game spot where you can afford to pay 2 mana right away to cast it and to get the miracle bonus, then it's okay. But you cannot choose the situation like you can do with Animate Dead when you exactly want to cast it. And this kind of, and I had the same feeling with Triumph of St. Catherine.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say,
Sometimes when you draw it, it's not the situation that you actually want to cast it, but then you think, suddenly I have this and I have to cast it because it's now a bonus casted for Miracle, but it doesn't really quite fit into a situation. And it doesn't allow you necessarily to play around days, and maybe you are on defending position, you face some other creatures that you need to remove, or you need to dig for forces or whatever. And this is a little bit of irregularity, I would say.
Yeah, that's true.
The card has.
I gotta admit here, pretty much with you guys on this side, although it has some upsides, because it's not like Animate Dead, because Spell Snare gets played a little bit more often right now. Also Spell Pierce. It doesn't get hit by those. Also, it doesn't get hit by Force of Negation. Yeah. So it has definitely some upsides that I want to bring here in. But overall, I also believe that this card will get tried out a lot. Flavor of the month, definitely. Also, I think there are for sure some people who want to try and brew a combo deck around it with sacrifice effects and recurring more Fanatics and something like that, maybe with Buried Alive even, or something like that. I mean, there are for sure insane minds out there who try to accomplish something But in my opinion, it's maybe like you, Peter said, I think before the cast, it's the third animate dead in the deck as a one-off. But that's also the most I could see it. I think we can now go to the main topic of our podcast here. And that's because we didn't find a lot of great cards. Hopefully we don't get punished by that when the set is out. Then suddenly there's a new card like we totally missed Psychic Frog. But now we try to brew around one card in particular, and that's Say Its Name.
Yeah, say its name.
Say Its Name.
Yeah, say it.
Yeah, it's Say Its Name. It's a green card for one and a green. A sorcery where you can mill 3 cards and then you return a creature or a land card to your hand. And you can exile 3 Say Its Name from a graveyard and search your graveyard, library, hand, and I think exile? Also exile?
I don't think it's exile.
But at least...
Library, graveyard, or hand, I think.
Yeah, for a card named Altanak the Thrice Called, which is a huge
And you
feature.
get to put the card into play.
Put the card direct into battlefield. So
Yeah.
it's basically a combo on its own, a combo enabler, some kind of. And that's what we try to do here. But before we go into the decks that we have built, follow us on our social media. It's @response_legacy. And huge shout out to our Patreons, Matt Duncan, Christian Neutz, and Moritz Eichmeier. Thank you very much for the support. If you want to support the show directly, subscribe to our channels on Spotify and on YouTube. It's just one click away. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I will start with my first brew.
That's very exciting, I gotta say.
Yeah, I had 2 ideas, and that's why I have to bring 2 decks today. The first one is more like an honorable mention.
Okay.
Because I talked with some guys at the FNM last weekend, and they talked about the power of Pyroglyph.
Pyroglyph.
Power of Pyroglyph.
Oh.
And I wanted to say, I like it. And I want to play Chant sometime again. So I brewed myself a little bit of Chant Goyf Tribal. So take a look at the deck list at first and then tell me what you think. So for sure, we got the 4 Say Its Name and the Altanak, the Thrice Called, because that's basically the combo shell that we're building around.
Okay.
Then we have Nethergoyf, Barrowgoyf, Tarmogoyf, and Pyroglyph.
So you almost have the perfect curve from turn 1 to turn 4, yeah.
And then simply just normal meta game decisions when you're playing Chant. It's like Fault, Cheese, Abrupt Decay, Fatal Push to get rid of opposing frogs. Then the real spice happens is Ethervile in this Goyf deck. And also to ensure a lot of card types in the graveyard. There are 4 Mishra's Bauble to thin the deck a little bit to draw more cards. And also the red Brainstorm Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah. The one thing I think is missing is like the Tarfire to spice it up.
To get the Goyfs to... Well, we don't have Planeswalkers, but other than that, you would at least get it to 7-8 or something. Yeah. I think with this, at least you can get 6/7s. If I
6
counting
7s, yeah.
that's the most that you can get out of the Tarmogoyfs here. Because I think I know Barrowgoyf, Tarmogoyf, and Nethergoyf, and Pyroglyph works the same, right? Is it the same?
Yeah.
Also, is it also symmetrical?
Yeah, it's symmetrical for both graveyards, yeah.
So only Nethergoyf counts your own graveyard, and the rest for both of the graveyards. Okay. I like the idea of having multiple Goyfs.
It's the Goyf's nest.
I like it, obviously, for flavor reasons. You have a nice 1-drop, then you have a token, then you have the Barrowgoyf, and then you have the Pyroglyph, which is all very, very nice to round up the curve.
But the one thing for me is like, at which point do you stop the Ethervile ticking up?
Yeah, sure.
Almost at 4. Because the thing is, I wanted to play a fair game, but you can't play a fair game today in today's Legacy. So Chant is the epitome of a fair deck, in my opinion. It's mid-range.
Like historically.
Yeah. And you have to cheat in some kind of way on the mana. That's where Ethervial comes in.
Yeah.
Because you can always keep up your removal. You can Thoughtseize. You can always play end of turn your Goyfs. And the thing is, Pyrogoyf has an ETB trigger when it enters the battlefield, or another Lure Goyf enters the battlefield. It shoots damage to any target equal to its strength. And
That adds up.
that's actually quite a great thing. I know that Fraben U is trying it out in Mono Red Stompy as a 4-off. So it definitely has some legs.
Yeah.
We know Netagoyf and Barogoyf already are viable and are really big beaters.
Yeah.
And Tarmogoyf historically was a good creature.
Yeah.
And that's basically here just to round up the mana curve.
Yeah, and
And it has a recurring threat theme underlying. So Barogoyf mills you and gets you back your other Goyfs. Say its name, mills you, gets you back your Goyfs, and lets you play them then with Ethervial. So that was the idea behind all this. And also Fable of the Mirror Breaker works the same. You draw cards and you discard cards and you draw more of them that you can bring back later with Say Its Name.
or you just copy your Pyrogoyfs and shoot for a billion.
Oh yeah, that's also very, very good idea to do. And the thing is, the combo here with Altanak is just cherry on top. That's it's certainly not focused on the combo. I wanted here to use Say Its Name simply as a value engine for the mill part to simply get a never-ending Goyf stream. Also in this deck there are 3 Cavern of Souls, which is just insane in a Chant deck.
Yeah, I like the idea. When you have only Goyfs as creatures, it makes sense that you can play Cavern of Souls to make...
It makes the mana definitely a lot easier.
Yeah,
for sure.
for the creatures, yes.
The sideboard plan is very unrefined. It's ley line, some removal.
Yeah.
Also, I like the Pyroblast in the main because you can get rid of so many frogs now with Push, Decay, Trophy, Pyroblast. It's great.
And Pyrogoyf triggers.
And Pyrogoyf triggers. So
I mean, they can pretty much shrink your Pyrogoyfs with exiling their own graveyard often, which we actually see
but then you
on
just
stream.
shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
That's also kind of great. That's my first idea for where Say Its Name could be. I don't want to say viable.
Very
could be
creative.
played, but I like the idea, and maybe some person out there is intrigued by that and rocks it to 5-0 in the league. But you have to give credit. You heard it here first.
So we basically have your typal Altanak with a little spice of Goyfs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. Mishra's Bauble definitely a must-have with Nethergoyfs to get your artifacts into the graveyard. I think I kind of would see the 4th Fable in here because fixing it up seems a little bit necessary. Also the tokens, the treasure token really help with the mana here. But otherwise, you have the removal here. We can Say Its Name. I think it would be a nice try.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that was my first honorable mention here. I think we can go over to a more competitive approach from Daniel here. Daniel, what was your idea for this brew?
So I think, what I'm intrigued by this combo in general is like that Say Its Name as a card and also the Altanak itself, even if you draw it alone, are okay cards. They're good cards. They can get you value and, Say Its Name mills you 3 cards. You can get back some lands or creatures. And I immediately thought, okay, you need some kind of graveyard interaction and which kind of lands do you want to recur more easily? I first thought of wasteland loops, similar to Life from the Loam kind of things. But then I remembered that there was in the past a version of blue-green depths that are played around. This former version played with up the beanstalk actually, and has a shell of Murktide regions and submerges. And the idea is now that you incorporate Sade's name instead of, well, as your green splash that gets you more access to the Dark Depths combo or get additional Dark Depths combo, or can help to recur one of your creatures, which is an Eldritch Reclaimer, a Murktide region if you mill it, and you in the end have the payoff with Altanach in the end if you get to multiple triggers of Sade's name. Then it's usually a blue shell. Brainstorm, ponder,
You can't
forces.
do anything wrong with a blue shell.
Yeah, usually with that. And yeah, you know, we have crop rotation, a couple of stifles, which I think is a very nice addition overall. And then still some Murktide regions for an alternative plan that doesn't involve around Dark Depths. And then the idea is that you just cantrip, play a couple of Sade's names or whatever, and get your Dark Depths combo going, and then win with that combo.
Yeah, I think the idea is pretty sweet. I've tinkered around or in my thoughts with it too. It seems really, really cool to play it like that. The one thing that I'm really miss in your deck list, we haven't really specified the mana base here.
Yeah.
But if you're playing 4 crop rotation and 4 Eldritch Reclaimer, not having like a 2-3 1-off bullets to 2 to 4, like Pachuca Box, the Cheery Step, is the
Deeps.
big, or Echoing Deeps, Caracas. Those are the cards that I kind of want to see here. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. And I think for Yamimaya as a legendary land is sometimes an overkill.
It is an overkill. The idea, I took it still from the Submerge idea, which I put in the sideboard for now, but you could maybe think around with this in the main deck, because blue-green doesn't have the best removal, which is a problem, of course. So like when the best idea would be Yavimaya plus Submerge. The mana thing about these bullets is right. It would be nice to have them. Maybe you can do that. Maybe you can also just put a couple of those in the sideboard when you need them in the matchups, because the mana is pretty tight for the blue count actually. To have the cantrips with Brainstorm Ponders, and you also want to get consistent green, which is more easily with Yaimaras for the Eldritch Reclaimers. But double blue, for example, for Murktide is actually already quite tough. And it's pretty low on blue mana, actually.
Yeah, one thing, because I'm like now a depths player, is if
Play
you
steps for 2 times and now he's the depths player.
no, if you're playing like green in green white, if you're going a really, really all in list into the combo, it's 3 Dark Depths, 3 Yamimaya, and 3 Vespene Stages. So usually it's around 2 copies of each. So like on 4 it can sometimes be iffy, because like as I said, Dark Depths doesn't do anything. It's pretty dead. So having it as a free of, because you have like 8 cards to tutor for it with crop rotation and
could be an idea to improve the mana base.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I gotta say, really like the idea. It's basically this same shell that we saw with the Mega Sloth. Am I right?
Yeah, more or less, exactly. And yeah, unless the Mega Sloth is only good if you have Dark Depths already in play. And with Sade's name, you at least advance your board state. You can cast it for 2 mana, get you. And then,
it's a value engine also in this
exactly.
deck. I really like it because I like value engines, and I love the thing that you've put Murktide Regent in it, because what I feared at first when I thought about Dark Depths and Sade's name combo is like Swords to Plowshares. Because Maridlach gets exiled or Altanach gets exiled. I mean, you can draw a card. Okay, that's fine. But you put so much effort into it just to get it sorted. Is just like, just a really big feel bad. Therefore, I really love the Murktide regions here to just put more pressure on your opponent and also the blue cantrip suit with forces. It's just always great, always good. For me, I don't like the stifles in this list. I would love some consign to memory.
Yeah, the main deck.
I would love.
Yeah, I'm
instead
still not
the
sure
consign to
whether
memory.
the decks want to have that over stifle. I mean, I get the idea. It works better for protection of your own combo, as you can protect your Dark Depths trigger with that as well, and it gets around multiple counter spells because you can just replicate it multiple times. Stifling an opposing fetch land is also.
And the ways tend to stop the early aggression. It's good.
It's tough. I get the idea, of course. I'm not super convinced.
It's more like my idea behind here to consign to memory is the prevalence of Eldrazi, because sowing Mucus Spawn simply does so much, and you can only shut off one half with Stifle.
Yeah.
And with consign to memory, you can shut off both, and this is sowing Mucus Spawn is pretty much the hard counter to your deck.
Yeah.
So with Eldrazi getting played up and down and everywhere, it's like I want to have some consign to memory in this place.
Yeah, especially with Eldrazi, you have access to Caracas. You have 2 legendary betas most of the time, but the one thing that we kind of dismissed or not talked about with Murktide Regent is the permanently giant growth if you get an Altanak out if you have a Murktide Regent, because you're exiling 3 sorceries from your graveyard.
Oh yeah, that's also very nice. I haven't seen got this in my head. It's nice.
If you have enough spells already, yeah. But sometimes you have this awkward situation where you need to exile it with Murktide Regent in the first place in order to cast it. But if it's in play, it's of course a nice bonus, yeah.
Okay, then I think because we put Peter on the last, because his deck is...
My list is so spicy.
It's so spicy that we need to have it as last but not least. So I go to a favorite deck of mine. And that's, we put simply Sate's name and Altanak in Hogak. Basically, I mean, that's just the old Hogak list, because I don't know how Hogak lists are built nowadays or if this is even a deck anymore. But in my opinion, 2 things that the Hogak list for sure needs are Sate's name, or 3 things, Altanak and Psychic Frog.
Oh yeah.
These 3 things make the deck work, because yeah. Just tell me, what do you think about it? Peter, you're laughing. It's great. It's great. I love
To be
it.
honest, on first impression, it looks actually, I think, quite nice, because Sate's name should really work well with the creatures shells that Hogak has. If you want to have more chances to get your Stitches suppliers and mill some cards, that could be bridges or cards that you want to exile with Hogak or Hogak itself, should actually work pretty well overall. And Psychic Frog obviously makes sense, because sometimes you want to just really get rid of stuff in your hand, and you would play Carrion Feeder beforehand.
Putrid Imp.
Putrid Imp, sorry, not Carrion Feeder. Putrid Imp.
Simply just a better Putrid Imp.
But I think Carrion Feeder was played also, right?
Carrion Feeder is the sacrifice a creature, you put the +1/+1 counter.
True, yeah.
Yeah, the deck looks definitely interesting. It can get access to your very, very different angles. With Psychic Frog, your beatdown plan got really, really strong. I mean, it was strong with Bridge, but now you have access to a few good cards also from a hand. Mana can be quite interesting, because you are leaning much more now into green as it was before, if I remember correctly. But otherwise, this is the deck where you mill over your Sate's names pretty consistently. So you get way more access to Altanak, and Altanak and Psychic Frog is pretty hard thing to beat on the board.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, what I thought here, why put Sate's name into Hogak is, you played Sate Wayfinder before, It's basically the same. You mill 4 cards and you pick a land card
From among them.
And put it into your hand. And here Sate's Name takes the role of Sate Wayfinder.
Yeah.
Because it gives you back a frog. It gives you back a Hedron Crab. Or another Stitcher Supplier to mill it even more.
A land.
Or a land,
Yeah.
which is also pretty great, yeah. It can also get you back another Altanach that you discarded, so you can get back with, when you discard the Altanach, another land.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of graveyard interactions that are in itself pretty strong. The combo aspect of searching Altanach and putting it into play is secondary here. It's more tuned again as a value engine, and yeah, that was the thought behind that. In the sideboard, I tried to copy the idea from Scam to go into more tempo-ish route with Bowmasters, Murktide Regent, and more decay and trophies.
Okay, so you want to defer a little bit from the graveyard strategies. You have Bowmasters, which is overall works also pretty well with Hogak itself, and Murktide Regent as a potent threat that, goes into the tempo plan as you said, and then removal spells, decays, and trophies.
Yeah, that was basically the idea behind it. It's game 1, you can easily win with graveyard because there is no graveyard interaction or graveyard hate. Yeah, you can use it all to as its own resource, and afterwards you have to switch the plan. Probably. And maybe this will get a resurgence of one of my most favorite archetypes.
This is actually something I would try. I think it looks solid. Psychic Frog, obviously pretty strong card.
Deck needs only from Psychic Frog and it looks solid.
And if the standard version of Hogak, of Back Hogak, had Satyr Wayfinder beforehand, then I think Sate's Name is a pretty clear swap, actually, to improve the deck.
I mean, you mill for 1 less, but you can get access to the creatures and to cards milled before.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the key thing, because with Satyr Wayfinder, you oftentimes also relied on the 3rd mana on the 3rd turn. And if you have like a fetch land from turn 1 or turn 2 even up, you get now access to the previously fetched cards. Or the previously fetch lands that you put in the graveyard. And with Satyr Wayfinder, you had to hope that one of the top 4 cards is on the one side really, really good in the graveyard, or at least 1 land in there.
Yeah.
It should be actually almost strictly better. Just almost.
Only the 1 mill less.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will makes its way into into a 5-0 list.
Yeah.
So
Would be nice
credits where credits is due. Now we go to the real big hitters. Peter, tell us, what was your groundbreaking idea?
Yeah, my groundbreaking idea was to put Say Its Name together with Altanach into the deck. But yeah, I started around with
really
something like Daniel, with Reclaimer, kind of into the Depth Shell, into the Land Shell. But I thought it's also like a big beater. I want to be into Marit Large. Then it's kind of hard because both get answered by Caracas. Both get answered by Swords. So what's the best deck in the format currently? And can it play back? So I basically took stock blue-black Froginator, removed some good cards and put in say its name with Altanach. No, it's like I really wanted to play Intuition, so I was kind of forced into going to blue. Psychic Frog seems like a no-brainer. You can discard access Say Its Name if you don't want to cast them. And what's better than having 8 frogs in a deck? You're playing Psychic Frog, your Say Its Name can back the Psychic Frog. Otherwise, you can put in an Altanach. You can reanimate the Altanach. You can get back Wastelands with the Altanach. So that was kind of the idea behind it. the one key thing is I cut 4 ponder down to 2 because Sade's name is my cantrip of choice.
That seems not right. But I get the idea.
Because you don't want to cast ponders.
Because I don't want to cast any ponders anymore. No, it's like you have to do some cuts and you just cut the generic stuff and don't want to cut the fancy cards. But yeah, it has to be tried around because like now you have like 3 cards to reanimate with Alternaga Drugs and Archon of Cruelty. And one key thing I think which opens up a little bit into the sideboard is like you can play now sometimes Veil of Summers or Carpet of Flowers. And Carpet of Flowers I think is the key card here in the sideboard because if you open up yourself a lot more for Wastelands, you really want to have carpets out early to help yourself against the opposing blue-black Froginator decks. But otherwise, into the mana base, basically Sculpted in the Bayou and the Tropical. Those are cards that you can bring back with, say, its name, or even the discard ability of Alternag. And yeah.
Or just the Wastelands. Yeah.
Or just the Wastelands, to skimp your opponent's mana.
No, overall looks pretty
Solid.
reasonable. I don't think, well, let's say, probably it doesn't solve problems that the deck has, but I could see it's a strong deck overall. I could definitely see just because Froginator is Froginator.
Yeah, thank you. I brewed Delver.
You changed the card. It's Delver.
Exactly, yeah.
The one thing that I really like is I'm playing also like 1 intuition over 1 of the ponders because intuition for a Sade's name is such a cool thing because you get access to 2 of them already into the graveyard, 1 into the hand, you cast it for 2 mana, put back a frog, for example, and then just have the big beat out. Like, for example, if you cast turn 2 a frog gets removed, end of your turn 3, your opponent, you cast an intuition for 3 Sade's name. Your next turn you cast the Sade's name, you put the Alternag into the play, and another frog. It's like pretty cool.
Seems pretty reasonable. I doubt that it's better than normal blue-black.
But it's worth trying.
For sure. I think this card that we took here for brewing is really an interesting choice because it you can put it in so many different archetypes and to, how do I say this? And it's always not, don't want to say viable. I want to say playable. It has potential. Yeah. It always has some kind of potential, and that's why we picked it out.
Exactly. I think it would be interesting to know what you would think this card does.
Yeah, for sure. So you can always write us on Twitter or an email in response at gmx.at with your brews, with your ideas. And also what we would love to hear from you guys would be if you like this type of content and if we shall do more of it or not. So let us know. Also, I think these were our ideas for brews. So have fun with Duskmourne, and we'll see us in 2 weeks in response.
The end.
This was In Response, a Legacy podcast. If you enjoyed the ride, feel free to support the show by following, leaving a review, or subscribe on patreon.com/response_legacy.